I'm not driving home tonight. Yeah, come on.
This is Charlie Parsons for Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Store. Quick one. Gad, we caught up yesterday. I feel like the vape's coming. We love it. It's a statement. Boxing Social. Look at the O's. Gareth, on a more serious note, we're seeing reports from Sky, Michael Benson's put out, Chris Eubank Jr.'s team are considering making an appeal to the British Boxing Board of Control over the use of the elbow before the knockout from Liam Smith. Now, obviously, we've seen it back many times now. It was close in the clinch. This sort of thing happens. Why do you believe this may be the case on Eubank's side?
Well, hello again, cheeky Charlie Parsons. I think, as you say, they're considering this. It's been widely reported on television and out there in many outlets in the last hour or two. Look, they're looking for reasons, aren't they? I think they're looking for reasons to get Chris Eubank Jr. back into the mindset of how did he beat me? Why did he beat me? They're forensically going over what happened. They're trying to rebuild him. He slid down the snake. He's got to climb the ladder. That's not an exclusive because I gave that line to IFL TV. Umar's going to putting in appeal, I think, to Box Park over me smoking indoors as well with that vape, which may happen soon. Whether I'll be ejected or not, we'll find out at the end of this interview. But I think it's
the king of Box Park, no?
I don't know if I'm the king of Box Park. Certainly not dressed like this. I'm dressed for TV work today. But look, I think seriously, I think it's an interesting move because maybe they've heard that Liam Smith doesn't want to do the rematch. Maybe they've heard he's moving on. Maybe he's got the Golovkin fight or even the Conor Benn fight. We'd see Liam Smith and Conor Benn now, wouldn't we? Yep. So there's all kinds of ramifications that could be going on behind the scenes. But I think they're looking for reasons to try and invoke that rematch clause and make sure he gets back in the ring while building his mental strength up again after a catastrophic loss in many ways. If you recall, there is nothing wrong with making an appeal. I don't see the Boxing Board of Control overturning the result or anything like that. That hematoma that came up, I think it was on his right eye, wasn't it? So it would have been a left elbow, I think. Was it a left elbow?
I believe so.
Yeah, it would have been, because that was the point, wasn't it, there? The only time I can remember in recent times the overturning of a fight, and that was done by the IBF, was when George Groves appealed against the fight. He was stopped early against Carl Froch, and we ended up under those arches there with 80,000, as Carl Froch will tell us forever. Carl Froch's a friend of mine. And I love it every time he says it, with 80,000 people. And then it started that cascade of stadium fights that we've had with the heavyweights ever since. But that's all I can think of, that they're building their PR from that side again after, a reputation that is broken right now. He's got to rebuild, and I think we'd see Liam Smith and Chris Eubank during a rematch, and maybe they're just trying to build the profile for a second fight.
Gareth, let me put it to you like this. We talk about sort of maybe it's his team trying to put him in a position where he wants to evoke that rematch clause. We talk about the weight cut from the Conor Benn fight, going back into this camp, then going back down, obviously, clearly, or must have paid an issue in this fight here. If it happens again and he loses, is this the end of Chris Eubank Jr.'s boxing career?
Yeah, you probably would say he's probably had enough. I mean, because maybe he should be fighting a super middleweight. Maybe he is weight drained at this stage. If you think his dad, I think Chris might have been 28 or 29 when he retired. I mean, he was a great heroic figure at the end. The Carl Thompson fights, Calzaghe, all those fights. Calzaghe was 97, I think it was, from memory. But I think, if he loses a second time to Liam Smith in the similar manner, if he hasn't got it anymore, I think he'll walk away himself. But I'm sure he's a brave and a proud man, and I can imagine Chris wants to go in there and right the wrongs in his mind. So I think they will fight a second time. I hope they do. I think it's a fight we'd all see again.
Just finally from me, do you think it's almost a shame a little bit he's got to 34 and maybe we didn't see just how good he was when he was a little bit younger? We heard a lot of the next gen which he comes out of. This is more in his 30s now. Does it almost feel like a bit of a wasted potential career-wise?
Well, I think you can add COVID to that period, so you maybe take a couple of years off. But yeah, I mean, and people will also say, has he been found wanting at world or elite level, He beat a weather-worn James DeGale, put up a great fight against George Groves, but was beaten. He's lost to Liam Smith, who was a world champion at 154 pounds. And I'm trying to think of the other, Billy Joe Saunders, much earlier in their careers. He's played that strutting peacock game, hasn't he? So, the ignominy, the fall from grace, the hubris, as I might say, he's got to live with that right now, and I don't think he'll be able to walk away from the sport with that feeling. I mean, if he loses to Smith the second time, it'll probably tell him. He won't be able to believe what's happened, I don't think. But I think if he loses in a similar manner again, that's probably curtains.
All right, Gareth. Always a pleasure. Top man. See you throughout the week. But Turby Evian.
Always a pleasure.